This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
All right, everybody, how you doing? This is Captain Jack. I cut down the intro. It's a bit abbreviated tonight because what I have to do here is I'm going to be we're going to be watching the rebroadcast of the Wednesday show, which was the Wild Wild West show that I do. It went a little bit over the 2 hours, so unfortunately I couldn't just pop it right in. So right now, given the intro here, remember every Wednesday on my channel on YouTube, you will see the Wild Wild West show. This is a rebroadcast, and it's a great show. I wanted to make sure that I put it on for everybody here. Make sure you watch. Now, again, this is for all you Roku people. Make sure you watch on my channel as well. It's the Captain Jack Rackham channel. Come on over on YouTube for anything you want as well, but you'll see a lot of the great entertainment here on the channel. So take care of yourselves. Again, rebroadcast of this past Wednesday's Wild Wild West show of the AFC West with myself representing the Raiders. You got Richie Riche, who is my shipmate in arms for the Denver Broncos. Alex Givens is a stalwart individual for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, my buddy in crime, shipmate, coach defense for the Chargers. So, without further ado, here is the Wild Wild West.
Hello and happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. I am Richie Riche of MHRT Network. Had to think about that for a second. It's been one of those days. Over to my right is Captain Jack. Captain, how you doing today?
I am good, Richie, and I just wanted to make sure that people know that I can dress in other colors other than silver and black. In fact, because of my warmth for coach defense, I wore a blue shirt today. But if you look closely, it's really from the House of Blues, because A, it makes me look wonderful, and B, it's going to be bringing a lot of the Charger fans this year to the House of Blues to quell their blues. So I thought it was apropos to wear it as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm asleep. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you understand the words that were coming out of my mouth? I can say them again.
Putting me to sleep. Like Richie says, it's been one of those days. You're putting me to sleep with that banter. So glad it's over.
Well, are you sure that wasn't acting out, by fourth quarter of a Chargers game?
No.
Okay.
It was just false, blasphemous banner. So I just figured I'd go to sleep on it.
Now, awesome.
If I may, when we get to what we're talking about today, I do have an announcement to make as well that is very profound, and we'll get into it when we get into today's subject.
I like that. I like the sound of this.
And so we have Coach Defense. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing well, sir.
And Alex, how's everything going in your side of the world?
Oh, it's been a Wednesday, but things are nice and hot down here. I do like old Captain Jack's attire, although I'd say first impression, I just wanted to get this out there. I thought it was a nice knockoff of Charlie Sheen from 2.5 Men on the show today. So
I got tiger blood, baby.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. That's a good reference. I like that.
Winning. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn right there, man.
There you go.
I do really wonder how that video in like 10 years from now with him is going to age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'll probably be older than him. He'll probably be dead within 10 years. So
it's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably go viral on TikTok, and then a whole generation that doesn't know who he is will find out. And then it'll be popular.
Again.
How it goes.
Again. Yeah.
What about the curveball, Ricky? Give him a heater.
Exactly.
By the way, if you have OG on, his voice is so gravelly. He can do that, the manager's voice, to a T.
Oh yeah, he could probably nail that one. He's got the rasp to his voice, which is perfect for that. Yeah, like he'd probably nail that. So we have a pretty cool show for you guys today. We're going all the way down, and we've kind of gone through some of the other position groups and whatnot, and we're going to go to the critical position on the field in the quarterbacks. And I also think, guys, as we kind of spoke earlier, we should also probably discuss, as we have in past shows, not just quarterbacks and quarterback rankings, but we should also at some point discuss, perhaps even separately, system fits in terms of where we believe they're going to go. And Captain, that was a softball for you.
Yes.
In case you didn't pick up on the reference there,
I did. Really, I'm ready to go. I'm ready, baby.
So, with that in mind, do you want to maybe go first and lead us off?
I knew it was coming up, and this is my very, very profound remark. I'm going to say something again that is not said very often. I, Captain Jack Rackham, was mistaken. I was mistaken. And let me let you know, first off, like what Carlos says, hit the like button for all of us. Hit the like button.
Subscribe.
Where I was mistaken was this. The name of the offense that Derek Carr and the Raiders this year will be abundantly successful in was not the Earhart Fairbanks offense. Oh no. It was the Earhart Perkins offense under Coach Chuck Fairbanks, named after Ron Earhart and Ray Perkins. Ray Perkins, who later came to fame as the coach at Alabama, okay, who was an offensive assistant. And I've been calling it the Earhart Fairbanks offense for a while, and I apologize for being mistaken. And I want to make sure for full, whatever you call it, like transparency, that we had the name of the correct offense is going to be kicking your ass this year.
Okay.
I don't care what it's called. It's always going to be the Amelia Earhart.
Exactly.
I knew that one was
all you want.
Amelia Earhart offense.
Amelia Earhart Sam Perkins offense. Got it.
Hey, okay. Hey, Sam Perk. Okay, yeah. Now is he still with us, right, Sam?
Good question. Former
Watch,
Lakers.
hey, GTS, man. You know GTS, right, Coach?
What is that?
Google that shite.
Oh, okay. Oh, you said GTS. I thought you said DTS. I'm sorry.
No.
GTS.
I'm sure you listen to them. I do know who they are. Yeah. Okay. We are talking.
Yeah, I'm still with us.
Okay, good. Sam was a great player, and
He was.
For sure. For full validity, the Earhart Perkins offense under Coach Chuck Fairbanks, which has been instilled in that team out east in Boston for a long time, was instilled under Coach Charlie Weiss years ago. Okay. And it's an offshoot of that. It's a derivative of the original. Okay. And since Coach Wise was the one that instilled it, it was obviously picked up by a young Josh McDaniel when he was the offensive assistant underneath Coach Charlie Weiss. Great offense. And as I will say again, Derek Carr was used or in that offense in 2016 under Bill Musgraves when he was the offensive coordinator for the then Oakland Raiders, and was an MVP candidate until Penn forgot to block somebody. The one guy he let through. And Derek Carr breaks his ankle. So a lot of different things could have happened in 2016 had Donald Penn made that block. And he actually is still livid about that to this day. So if we're going to talk about scheme and system, okay, we have a quarterback that knows the offense and its derivatives going way back. It'll be quick to pick back up on, okay? And if we're talking about people that are maybe running different offenses, we can say that the Chiefs are looking good because Kermit the Frog is still running the Eric Bieniemy Waffle House offense that he's been running for quite some time. Herbert, who is up for his next Clearasil commercial. I'm zigging him today, baby.
Place today, ain't you?
I'm in there. I think that, and again, Coach, please allow me the honor of how long he's been in his offense. Is it still the same offensive coordinator or not?
Second year as offensive coordinator. He first year he had one, and then he turned over last year to a new one in Joe Lombardi. So this will be a second year with Joe Lombardi.
So good. So he's with Joe Lombardi. And then there's this dude who is probably going to be on crutches, wheelchairs, and his early AARP card in Denver this year, who was under a brand new head coach with a brand new scheme under a offensive line which is suspect. So when all comes to the throw at you, we got at least 3 quarterbacks in this division that are very comfortable in their settings for the offense. And it will come down to obviously production. Hey, Avatar, thanks for that. And I said I love Sam Perkins when he was out of North Carolina years ago, and that's why I've always been a Carolina fan since Dean Smith. Love that. Thanks for that. So, Richie, your mic's down, dude.
Was your attempt there at the one-line zingers also your attempt at ranking as well?
No, I did not put them in any particular order. I just know that Kermit is holding on with a thread. We got Pimple Face that is ascending, but I don't.
Your guy wears eyeliner 24/7. Who are you bagging on?
I mean, really?
And he cries.
Hey man, that's my quarterback.
He gets hit. You don't remember that video where he's like, they're pulling him up and he's just looks like he's like.
Dude,
I remember that.
If I got hit that hard, it wasn't that he was. It's just that the sheer force. When you get hit that hard, man, it's going to induce tears. It is going to induce, and I know what you're talking about. But again, in no particular order, but I'm really liking the fact that Derek Carr is going back to an offense where he should be back to a level where he was an MVP candidate in 2016 with better weapons this time. Okay. And like I said, I'm not even going to do rankings per se, but you're talking about the offenses and the quarterbacks and how they fit. And we can go to it eventually, but I digress. And what is it when you're in Congress and you give time away to your next person?
You heed your time?
Yes, I heed my time to you, Sir Richie Riche, to deem whoever else is necessary to come into this conversation, sir. And I thank you.
So I think it's interesting, just based on what you just said, insult aside, with regards to pointing out that while Carr is returning to an offense that he is familiar with and did well with, that Russell Wilson is also doing the same in Denver. And I also think it's important to in addition to that, to also note that your offensive line, when they were put together for a different offensive scheme as well. And if there is a benefit actually with anything in Denver, is that the core of the offensive line in Denver, generally speaking, was actually put together to run the offense that they've now finally gone back to.
That's because it got rid of the a-hole that was keeping them back per you. See, I listen to you, Richie, when you say things.
Yes. And I don't disagree with that as a statement at all, but I just think it's important that we kind of look at both the Raiders and the Broncos differently a little bit if we're going to be fair, objective in this circumstance, the situation, from the Chargers and the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are returning back with, well, I won't say most of their core players, but at least the quarterback and the head coach. They're going to be incredibly familiar with the offensive scheme that's there. You can start inserting some questions on whether or not the offensive line is going to maintain what they did last year. You know, the offensive weapons that they've obtained to help the quarterback throw to, whether or not they're going to make up the difference of some of their losses. Those are fair questions. But generally speaking, you're talking the core key position that we're talking about today in quarterback with the Chiefs is returning, and it's the exact same head coach, and it's likely going to be either very similar or darn near identical offensive scheme. Same thing with the Chargers. You have a returning quarterback and returning offensive coordinator. And that is completely different between compared to, almost juxtapose, if you will, to the Broncos and the Raiders. You're talking completely different.
Throwing those words out there, Reid. I didn't know they knew them up there north of the border, man.
Yeah, we actually do use proper words up here, the Queen's English, if you will. Because we still have the royalty on our money, sadly.
The rain and spine lies mainly on the pine.
So is anybody going to address the idea that Cap bragged on me a few weeks ago about air quote not understanding the assignment, and we just is clearly a ranking show. We were ranking quarterbacks 1 through 4, and Cap did.
No. I gave back my time to start the subject and we'll end the subject. You know, it's my ploy. Okay, I got the assignment. Okay, I said I'm going to start this. And I'm going to let you guys talk, and then I'm going to say, "Oh no, you didn't." At the end, you see what I'm saying?
Y'all know you're going to say Derek Carr's number 1, and it's because of Amelia Earhart, Sam Perkins, Fairbanks, offense.
So just to ensure that I actually don't get accused of the same thing, my rankings fast all the way through. Number 1, I have the Chargers in terms of quarterback. I think that Herbert can probably supplant Mahomes due to some of his skill sets overall. I also think that Mahomes has proven last year, and I think will further prove that he does in fact need weapons around him in order to really show out. And I think that's going to further as time progresses and as his contract eats up more and more of their cap space. So I have Mahomes number 2, Herbert number 1, Russell Wilson number 3, and Carr number 4. However, injuries, line, and weapons, I could easily see Carr flipping into number 3 and Wilson go number 4, depending on where certain things, fall out and where they all land. I could also see Mahomes with some of the weapons. Like if you're actually looking at statistics and whatnot, if those weapons don't work out for Mahomes, I could see him sliding actually all the way back as far as 3, which would then move up the other ones kind of a notch up as well.
That's very respectable, Richard, because I was expecting you to put Russell Wilson right up there, and rightfully so. I mean, based upon his previous record, like if you look at his resume, I mean, this guy has several 100 plus passer rating years in his career. He's had multiple 3,500 plus yard career, years. He's had multiple. I don't think he had a losing season outside of last year in his whole entire career. So I'm very shockingly surprised and very impressed that you are very level headed in your ranking.
I actually don't necessarily think. I actually don't think that I still think Wilson might well have a winning record in Denver. But I truly think that the AFC West, with our rosters that we collectively have, especially adding in the defensive side of the ball, which you've only really scratched the surface of in some of the shows so far today, really, I truly think that we have a legit possibility of having at least three teams in the AFC West with a winning record.
That's very possible. It's very possible. But yes, again, I commend you on your level-headed ranking because, like I said, easily could have gone Captain Jack and just said Derek Carr number 1 and the rest of you guys are trash. That kind of thing. But I definitely
never said trash.
I'm exaggerating, but that's kind of how we feel. That's kind of how we feel when you speak on and you look send me the rant over there.
Yeah, and I got to get back with you guys because I heard all of that stuff. Right. That you said behind my back last week, when I finally saw the saw the production. Oh no, you didn't. But yeah, I saw it. So there you go.
Okay. I mean, it's on the internet. It's not like we really were hiding, but okay. You know. But anywho, so is it my turn?
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Here we go. So in regards to rankings, again, you know, for me, it starts with stats. You know, if you don't have a argument based upon stats in production, then what are we talking about here? You know, from a starter and production perspective, I guess you can say in a 3-year window, and of course Herbert doesn't have that third year because he's going into his third year, so he only has 2 years of tape and resume out there in regards to his stats and his numbers. I would say for sure my number one would be Patrick Mahomes, but it's probationary because I do feel like that Justin Herbert has a slight rise, much like Mahomes had, and when he started off, you know, lighting in a bottle, you know, right out the gate as soon as he started, a complete, time frame because course Mahomes didn't play but one game in his rookie year, but he started all his second season. So I'm gonna give Mahomes a probationary one, but I think his time is ticking based upon the fact that he has the same offensive coordinator, like you say, same head coach, same offensive line for the most part. Only thing is really changing, his tight end's still the same, his receivers are different. But I mean, if he can prove to me that he is a legit quarterback and he is the heir apparent and the elite quarterback that people are going to give him credit for being the next 10 to 12 years, then he has to be, his production has to stay the same or go higher with the receivers he has now with no Tyreek Hill. But I'm going to give him a probationary one. I'm going to give Justin Herbert 2, like I said, but I think that he has the ability with his having the same offensive coordinator and the same weapons. That's big. And an improved offensive line. I think that he could honestly and truly vie for the MVP this year. That's my honest and hypothesis on what the awards could shake out in this year's production. So I think that Herbert could honestly be the MVP this year. So I would say that Herbert's 2. And I would give Russell Wilson 3. Again, this resume speaks to the idea that he's a very close third. I mean, you could honestly say, it's 2A, 2B for Herbert and Wilson based upon Russell Wilson's resume. Again, he's had multiple 100 passing rating years, over 90 QBR. I think his average is like 95, 96 average QBR for his entire career.
He also has one of the most accurate deep balls in all of football.
True.
And we're talking like top 2 basically in terms of still in the league. So
yeah,
I mean, that's fair.
Again, I put all respect on Russell Wilson. I've always been a fan, when he was in Seattle. So, give him 3rd, and I'll give Derek Carr, by default 4th. Again, I don't have any ill will of Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr, but I really think from a talent perspective, a weapon perspective, O-line perspective, new offensive coordinator, all those mixed in together for the Raiders he's going to be 4th. But 4th in this division is not saying you're the Lions. It's just saying that you're 4th in a good division. So that's not really a slight on Derek Carr either, because I do like Derek Carr as a quarterback as well. And had he been in any other division outside of this division, he'd probably be the number 1 and number 2 quarterback in the division, depending on where he landed. Say hypothetically, he was in the NFC East right now. He'd be the number 1 quarterback in that division, bar none. I mean, you can't argue that. So that's why I rank my guys at 1 through 4: Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson, and then Carr.
So, Alex, aside from shaking of the head, which is the obvious I disagree, which I don't understand why you would, because, I mean, unless you disagree with the probationary comment, you're...
Absolutely.
Okay. So then let's get into that then. Let's hear what you have to say about that.
Well, first, I just want to say it was, I mean, outside of being a Chiefs fan, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is the best out of the 4, no matter how you guys want to try to asterisk it or not. It was hard to do a ranking because, like you said, Richie, I mean, this is probably the best division in football. And if you put any of these teams in a different division, they're like going to be talked like the Bills of like the powerhouse shoe-in Super Bowl or bust. But because we're all in the same and got to play each other, it's like, let's just see who makes it out alive.
Right.
But with that being said, the complete disrespect here for Mr. Patrick Mahomes, our Kermit, however you might call him, is absurd. Because first of all, you can't. It's an apples to oranges comparison here to say Herbert's right there. Herbert has not made the playoffs. Herbert did not tie the same type of record Peyton Manning did in throwing 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. He didn't have an NFL MVP. He doesn't have any of these accolades. Like you act like he's right there because he had to put up some stats. But at the same time, part of my ranking is what else have you done in terms of winning? It's one thing to put up numbers, but if you can't make the playoffs and you can't bring something back to the team, then what's it for other than just saying he's got a hell of an arm, which he does. But Mahomes has been to 4 straight AFC West or AFC title games, gone to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. And I think until Herbert does that, he's not anywhere close in terms of being the best. So with that being said, my obvious number 1 is Patrick Mahomes.
Is that a probationary obvious?
No, that is with an exclamation point, maybe even 5 right after.
Full stop period.
We'll see.
I mean, you guys act like he lost so many weapons. He lost Tyreek Hill.
What do you mean, guys?
I get that, but he still has Kelsey. They brought in different guys that I think are in a better way gonna spread the ball around and make up for that lost production of Tyreek Hill. They have the same offense, but I think in this league some continuity is something to be said and had. I mean, you guys kind of talked about it. Is like kind of the knock on the Raiders and Broncos, or they're trying to implement new schemes with same people. And I think it's to be said that the Chiefs have the second best coach in football right now and one of the best all time. And he's, still there doing his thing. And they also brought Matt Nagy back, which when he was the offensive coordinator at the time, that was Mahomes' MVP unremarkable season, and he's going to be the passing game coordinator. So I think something's to be said with that. I think I get why people want to just hang their hat on Tyreek's gone, so the Chiefs are done and not going to be the same, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. So with all that being said, Mahomes is 1. Obviously, I think Herbert is 2. I think if he has the same type of year stat-wise as last year and they make the playoffs.
Even Rich's dog don't agree, but go ahead, though.
Well, I don't know if you can hear mine. Mine's going crazy upstairs.
He's a Broncos fan. As soon as he heard something about, the Chiefs winning, it just doesn't end well.
But
winning.
Herbert definitely same skill set wise. He's a better athlete than Mahomes. He's probably just as athletic as Josh Allen. But he doesn't have that kind of narrative that he has to use his legs to move the ball. I think Herbert has just as good of an arm and the ability to make kind of crazy throws in an improvised way as Mahomes does. I think Herbert can be in the talk of being 1 if they do something this year and make a deep playoff run, make the AFC title game or the Super Bowl, then I think he can start being talked in that way. So that's kind of why
I don't think that's right. If I'm not mistaken, I thought Herbert's worst stat last year was when he was throwing off platform.
No, that's inaccurate.
Is that not true? Because I thought that was what his issue was.
Off platform, actually. It's a very underrated stat about him. He's very good.
I think I read something on it. It was like a next gen stat that he
he's very good off platform.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was a certain pressure package where he was like not very good. But for some reason, I thought.
But, I mean, watching him play, the dude is good at improvising and maybe not throwing on the run, but at least moving around the pocket.
Yes.
And
throwing on the run under pressure. He's actually in one. I think the top 5 in pressure throws in the last 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to Google it, but I'm pretty sure that he's up there in the top 5 in pressure throws.
Yeah,
because
he's athletic. He has a similar game to Josh Allen. He just has a better roster around him. I mean, now Josh Allen probably does, but from Herbert taking the reins, he's had a pretty solid, core around him that I think's kind of diminished the need to use that. Plus, he has a cannon, so I mean, it's kind of hard you don't need to use your legs all the time, and you can just flick it for 70 yards and drop it in. And then, after that, I put Wilson at 3 as well, purely kind of more off of a resume basis. And, I think it's a little bit of a wild card, just how late into the game he is, and going to a different team. Although it is probably a better roster than what he had in Seattle last year, but sometimes you just never know if the mesh is, how long the mesh is going to take, if they go into the season in, peak form, or if it takes a few games and maybe that hurts some of the development of the overall system itself. But at the same time, outside of last year, Russell Wilson is in the MVP talk pretty much through the whole season with almost, no one good around him besides like a DK Metcalf or, one person. And I think something is to be said with that. And, obviously his stats last year were a little weak, but he hurt his finger and was out for like 6 weeks or whatever it was. So, but he's still Russell Wilson. And then obviously I put Derek Carr at 4. Kind of the same as Coach said. I don't have anything against Derek Carr. He's a respectable QB. Unless the Chiefs are playing him, then I hate him. But to me, he's kind of like out of the rest of what's in the division, Derek Carr is like the great value QB. Where like he's going to give you good stats. You're getting your money, your bargain out of him, but he's not going to go like absolutely dominate and win a game for you. But through the grand scheme of a season, he's got a pretty respectable, stat line. And so, yeah, that's how my rankings kind of went out.
Okay. So what's your rebuttal, Cap? I'm curious to hear what you got to say now. Now that we explained to you in detail that by default, the Raiders as a whole and as a unit are going to be the 4th best team in the division, no matter how you slice it. Now that we explained to you,
you are so full of fecal matter. As a whole, the 4th best team in the division. Yeah. There were only 2 teams that went to the playoffs last year.
Here we go.
I'm sorry. It's what have you done for me lately?
2022.
What have you done for me lately?
2021 is over.
What have you done for me lately?
This is a leading into the 2022 season.
From last year with an improved Raiders offense and an improved Raiders defense. You got to say that the Raiders are
that's not the lately
best
though.
or the number 2 team in this division based on what have you done for me lately?
2? Yikes.
Well,
okay.
see that's actually why I ranked Wilson where I did, and that's why I was ranking Carr where I did, is because the defense of the Raiders last year really is what sparked a lot of the Raiders' success and really flipped the field a lot for the Raiders in terms of getting you guys either staying in games or kind of moving up in games where you're able to really demoralize the other team. And I thought you guys did a good job.
The 4th.
Pardon me?
He's a Raider fan. Even got Raider Zach commenting they have the fourth best roster.
Right. Raiders Zach said the same thing.
Yeah. And no, but what I'm getting at there is that if you're talking about lately, then you're talking about what you did last year. And what you did last year was with a different offensive scheme. So once you progress past what you actually did last year, and I'm saying the same thing for the Broncos, just to be perfectly clear, is we can surmise and look at what we have on the roster and actually transpose what we had last year and what we knew we could do and what we couldn't do, and look ahead to what we're going to do this year based on what we know the offensive schemes are going to be. But ultimately, lately is what you did last year.
And you were 9-8. It wasn't like you were 12-5. You were 9-8. You had overtime.
I mean, they did beat the Chargers to go to the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say what they were 9-8, and they had one game better than whoever was in third. Who was in third place? I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's right.
Terrible. That's terrible.
It's true.
That's
true.
I guess a horrible defense that we had. We still took you to overtime. So yeah, you make it seem like you beat our brain. You beat our
wait. Can I finish? I will say on that. You took us to overtime, and that defense was with the Gus Badley, and that is correct. the Gus Badley defense. Okay. The Badley defense, which was so vanilla that it improved only because the DC that he replaced sucked so horribly that he could work for Hoover and Dyson as their vice president of media relations. That's how bad, Paulie G was. So any improvement on that Raiders defense with Gus Badley, they say, it was greatly improved. No, it was improved because it was Gus Badley over Paulie G. I will say, and again, I can't prove it because the proof will be in the pudding this year. But I will say that the Raiders defense, in my estimation, will improve tremendously under Graham. So if we had a great offense and only got better, and we had a defense that only gets better, there is no way in hell that the Raiders are going to be out of the playoffs this year, even though we have to have the gelling and all the things done. Okay, and I might be mistaken. Maybe they pull a gargler and they're like one game short of the playoffs at the end of the year. Okay, but I will say this. If that's true, and you guys are, and I am on record saying that top to bottom in this division, it's going to be separated by 3, maybe 4 games, pending and not throwing into really fantastic injuries to key players. I think it's going to be that much. Like I said, Raiders and Chargers at the top, and I've said this in the program, Raiders and Chargers at the top. Whoever wins based on tiebreakers will be the champion, okay? But I will say this. If the Raiders don't get that tremendous thing or there's some issues within that, I think that the defense will be greatly improved and that the offense is going to be so much improved from a team that did make the playoffs last year. That's why I'm not saying this as a homer. I'm saying it analytically.
So, like we kept on saying earlier, the problem with our division is what?
You saw my rankings. The best quarterback in this division is Russell Wilson. Best quarterback is Russell Wilson. I have Carr and Mahomes, for Alex's case, I'll say Mahomes, Carr.
There we go.
At the 2. And then I had some pimple face squeak at 4, quarterback wise, in the division. But with scheme, I will put the Raiders at wherever the hell I put them. Raiders and Garglers at 1 and 1A. Then we have Kermit the Frog, and the chick from Roseanne, because he that's his stunt, or her stunt double is Kermit at quarterback for the Roseanne show. And then you got Russell Wilson based upon, I got to see it. And again, these are my thoughts, analytical thoughts. I could be very wrong, and then I might have to say it again, like I kind of led the show with, but we'll see.
Yeah, we need to save this clip.
Yeah, we do.
About midpoint of the season, we can play it.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
I will own 110 percent.
I request we preserve the record here.
See, the great thing about YouTube is that it archives everything. So no matter what I say or what any of us say, we can always go back, and there will always be someone that can say, "Do you remember when you said this?" Now, I'm a firm believer that if you support your opinion and something is different, I mean, nothing is necessarily set in stone, but you do enter into dangerous territory when you start talking in potentially absolutes, when you start going into things, right?
Right.
And I don't think any of us have actually gone into that territory when we've been speaking. I think it's been, because of this, or we think this may be the case. So I think it's not we covered ourselves, but I think we've by and large provided some feedback.
Winning
Dragon blood,
Something
right?
that the Chargers didn't do their last
No,
game.
it's all about the dragon blood.
Tiger blood. Tiger
It's all
blood.
I
about
got
dragon blood, right?
baby.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm
So-
also doing Denise Richards.
Oh,
Good for you.
I win.
So,
Winning.
I think we've covered it on several shows, but what does make this division probably more interesting than most is the fact that, first off, there was a ranking of NFL quarterbacks, top 10. All 4 of the AFC West quarterbacks made the top 10.
there you go.
And Carr was the lowest ranked one of that list. I've seen it.
Yeah, no,
Correct.
nobody that really good gets that logic, but you.
Correct. But that's the thing, right? Is when you look at the overarching NFL and you have a national analyst putting all 4 of the AFC West quarterbacks in the top 10,
Well, you know it's bad.
bloodbath, right?
Yeah.
Like bloodbath is what you're expecting in the division. So
Prison fight.
yeah, exactly. So that I think that's part of
Shapes on
what
the
makes this
yard.
division so interesting.
Mhm.
Is
That's right.
is all 4 teams have shored up the quarterback position. All 4 teams.
Come here, you bastard! I'm gonna run
Oh,
you
the
through.
sword. Okay, I agree. So what is that? Okay. The pirate sword. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's the really interesting about our division, right? Is that
Oh,
we've all shored up the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. Broncos were the last to do it, but we did finally bring in that kind of no questions asked starting quarterback, and that really makes our division somewhat unique. All of these other divisions in football, by and large, don't have top to bottom four quarterbacks that are just check. They
No.
just don't.
No, not at all. Not even close.
Yeah, they just don't.
Not
So
even close.
I mean,
And
there's
out of
even
respect-
some that don't have a single QB ranked. So, probably inside
like the
top
Browns, who
12.
just traded Baker Mayfield for a conditional 5th to the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And out
Right.
of respect for Sharif, I put that comment up.
The very
And
active.
again,
Well, and
we
I
will
was just
see-
going to say
we
that to
will-
your
we will
point. Like,
see- we will see
you
what
know?
happens because again, I will be there literally front and off center.
I
Corner
get
end
it.
zone.
I'm hedging my bet because I just need to get through training camp and preseason healthy. Then I'm going to ratchet up the heat because it's going to. If we're on the field 100% healthy come game 1, y'all in trouble. I'm just be honest with you. The Raiders are in trouble week 1. That's a fact. Y'all in trouble.
No, that is an opinion.
That's a fact.
That sir,
That's a
sir,
fact.
I am an analyst.
Mm.
That is an opinion based upon information which you've analyzed. Do not tell the analyst how to take information and put it into a report because that's what I have to do for a living. You are giving an opinion in a report you're briefing it to the audience.
It's an opinion.
That
It's going to
is
become
an
fact.
opinion.
How about it's the opinion is going to become fact? How about that? That better for you?
It's an opinion which may or may not come to fruition.
It'll be.
It's something. It's a
So
statement.
what I just heard was a hypothesis that needs to be proven before it becomes the narrative.
Thank you. That is true. And for the
And
people that say
now
by the
I
bye
do
week-
think it's a fair one. I think it's a fair one. Like literally any one of the games that each of us play each other, I mean, barring any major injuries, I don't care who you are. I don't care what fan base you're from. You can enter into it fairly and say, it is a legitimate chance that either my team will win or lose. And it's probably not far off from the 50-50 mark with either of us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is. I truly believe that the AFC West is that tough of a division this year.
And I am on record saying the same thing. I'm also on record that when Coach said, and I will have to go back into the tapes, that the Raiders will, be blitzed out of the stadium, that they will have so many numbers put up on them on the opening night that it will make their head swim like a pinball machine. I'm saying, sir, you are full of crap.
I couldn't even tell you who's on their secondary besides Abram. And he might as well be like Ryan Gosling and Remember the Titans.
If you're gonna F up the names, F them up correctly. It's Jonathan Abram.
He doesn't even deserve to have his name pronounced correctly.
Well,
He's
okay.
Poor man's Rodney Harrison.
Okay, so when Kermit the Frog goes back to pass, correctly stated, Kermit Darlene.
Kermit Darlene.
Okay. Kermit Darlene goes back to pass and he forgets what to do because he's still thinking about his next insurance commercial. Okay. And he's going to be missing the doctor on the offensive line to resurrect Andy Reid when he dies of a friggin' heart attack from eating friggin' Waffle House. You're going to say, we might not want to have gotten rid of the doc.
No slander on the Waffle House. Waffle House is good.
No, I love Waffle House, but that's going to be the dear end of Andy Reid.
We shall see. Like I said, I'm just hedging my bet. But let us get out of camp.
Yeah. Let's move out of this. I actually would like us to, transition, if you will, over to one of the other comments that we had here. If you just bear with me for 1 sec, there was a commenter who is dying to know our thoughts.
Yes,
on this. Jack, I'd like to thank you for joining us, as well as everyone else who's joining us live. Yeah. And questions, we love them. We love having you guys participate in the show. If you guys are only able to join us after the fact, that is perfectly okay too. There's a comment section below in each of the YouTube videos, regardless of the channel you are checking us out on. Leave those comments after the fact if you'd like us to cover something. If you didn't like what I said or anyone else said, leave those comments below as well. We'd love to get your feedback and move forward from there. Moving on to the question, though, weapons-wise, we've kind of touched on this over the last 2 shows we did.
Yeah.
But we didn't, and we haven't really put them together.
That's a good one.
We really haven't, and that's really what this question from Jack is. So, somewhat veering from the topics of the show, but also pretty relevant overall. Jack, to be fair, I'm gonna stay incredibly consistent for the Broncos. For my comments earlier, the Broncos are entering into new territory this year, and we're almost going back in a bit of a time machine to when we had Rick Scangarello as our offensive coordinator a little bit, because it's that style of offense that you're going to likely see from the Denver Broncos in that kind of typical, even dare I say classic outside zone scheme that the Broncos have traditionally ran in years past. So, and I do believe that overall, from a weapons perspective, you need an offensive line that's well suited for that style of offense, which I think we do have. You also need weapons that are versatile. And I think that that's what the Broncos have on our roster right now to fit kind of a mismatch of a bit of an offense. We have some speed guys, we have tall possession receivers, and we have some pure slot guys in someone like, say, Jerry Jeudy, as an example. And on top of that, we also have 3, not just 1, 3 kind of mixed breed style tight end. So we have a guy like Eric Saubert, who is quite literally a 60-40 split between a blocking tight end and a pass catching tight end. We have Albert O, who is a better pass catcher, but can still block pretty well. And he can book it for his size. He can absolutely book it.
Fastest kid alive.
Pardon me?
I said he's a freak. He's the fastest kid alive.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's
absolutely ridiculous. Guy. He's Mizzou made. I like
Yeah.
Elvis.
Is that a super bad reference?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It kind of flew over.
It did. I was like, that's a super bad reference. Wait a minute.
I should have been
I missed
panting a
the
lot.
movie reference.
Right,
I
right.
apologize, man. What did I miss?
It's all right. It's over. It's over. I'll go back.
I'm so very sorry because you have so very little commentary that I listened to that one of the things that I should have listened to and I missed it.
Dang.
Jesus.
We're just out for all the jabs today, huh?
Right. I know, right? You just came out.
I'm hungry today, baby. I'm hungry.
Gloves on
I got
today.
tiger
With the sword out, it's making me
This is
It's the
this
shirt.
is the get off my front lawn version
Yeah,
of Captain
yeah.
Jack for the show today, which is
This is the stopped at the
yeah, he's got the
watering
he's got the rocking chair and the shotgun
Captain
sitting on the
Jack.
front porch
Right.
with the wraparound porch, right? But
I don't. Hey, wait, no, I don't have a shotgun, but I will get the AR.
Show and everything. You ready?
If there was, I mean, if it wasn't in bad taste, I would have gotten the AR out. But with and by the way, and on a serious note, again, gun control, non-gun control. Let's do some praying for the families that got that are no longer with us because of bad things that happened to them. And again, pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever, people were killed unnecessarily. And I think that we just got to make sure that we consider our thoughts there. That's why I didn't pull out the AR. The Saber will do just as fine.
agreed. So flipping back over to the tight ends and to answer the question at hand, I do believe that the Broncos are well suited, but it's all new. We just truly don't know. And I think that's a fair. So if rankings, that sort of thing, I think you have to go back to those that are largely returning. And I think you'd have to, again, look at the Chargers coming back with the most returning overarching weapons as being in that top ranking, just because the majority of their team is returning from the year prior. I think that if you're looking at the core, I think the Broncos have the majority of their core returning compared to everybody else. Tied almost in some respects to the Raiders, but you have Devontae Adams that's going to kind of mix things up a little bit, which again, it's no, he's certainly an elevated number one receiver, top two, top three at worst in the NFL. But you also don't know how someone like that is going to impact the offense in terms of negatively impacting by getting targets and forced throws and that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm saying you just don't know. And so from an analytics perspective, if you're going to truly analyze it from that perspective, I think that is a risk. And so I would probably put Denver 2, Raiders 3. And honestly, I just think the Chiefs were gutted so heavily from a weapons perspective. And
perspective.
No, where's Pringle? Where's
Pringle,
the other, like,
oh my, pull up Pringle's stats last year and tell me he was captain.
No, it's
Come
not.
on.
It's not just
He got paid
stats.
money 'cause
It's
he
also
wore
when
Kansas
he was
City
targeted.
uniform.
Who did he get money from? Denver? I mean,
Yeah,
Chicago?
and DeMarcus Robinson, they let him go. That guy would only catch a bomb or drop it. You know, they lost Tyreek
Yeah, at
Hill.
least he's 50-50 on it.
Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
anyways, my thing is that I think that the Chiefs lost enough of their weapons from last year, where you don't have as many people returning as the other teams that I mentioned before you, and I think that you lost more people than you retained. So if I'm gonna truly assess weapons, I have to go based on what we saw last year, and that's kind of my response.
So you had run it down for me again. You had the Chargers won,
Chargers, Denver, Raiders,
Chiefs. Okay,
Chiefs.
okay. Just
So
making
I
sure.
kind of went like zigzag almost in terms of what's on the screen in terms of our teams. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Alex, I want you to go next. I want to hear your take on it since he puts you guys forth.
I'll be fair here. I mean, I will be realistic. Taking the QBs out of it and purely off of I'm going to go with how I think Jack wanted us to look at it like a paper perspective going into the season, I would agree and put the Chargers at 1 because I think they have the most complete roster with taking Herbert out of the equation, with the people they have and the people they brought in. Weapon wise, I think Everett's kind of could be like a dark horse kind of guy from the tight end position to bring in and kind of help their offense be even better. So I'd put them 1. I'd put the Raiders at 2, just because I obviously they have a pretty solid receiving core, and they already had it and added to it by bringing in Adams.
Right.
But I do agree that when you have someone who is so used to being like 100 plus target guy and the guy, and the only guy in a system, it's going to be, I don't think it's such a shoo-in that he shows up in Las Vegas and he's the same Devontae Adams stat-wise as he has been, just because there's more people and more mouths to feed. But I think from
Renfro alone.
Yeah.
Renfro alone is chews into those stats. Like just pure, like that's it.
Renfro and Waller
too.
And they got Robinson, and which they paid him some money, so I'm sure they're going to try to get him in there, one way or the other. But I think just across the board, they have a pretty complete receiving core. And I think Josh Jacobs is a good running back. I guess they don't really agree with that, but I think he's a pretty solid running back, and good from that perspective. I would be fair, even though I did disagree with you. I would be fair and put the Broncos' weapons better than the Chiefs, but I only say that because of the two-headed running backs you guys have in the rushing attack, and I think that's going to be a big part of. Obviously, it was a big part of whatever success last year, but I think with the changing to the outside zone scheme, having an offensive line that's built to do that, and Russell Wilson's kind of built to play around that type of running attack, I think that's going to be the big component to their success.
That's what he had in Seattle too, right?
Yeah, and obviously has been obviously they are successful with it already. Like we said last week, having 2,000-yard rushers. So that to me, that's what puts them over Kansas City. Because purely, while I sit here die on the hill that they only lost one person, they are changing the guard. With passing the ball, they do have Kelsey back, but he's obviously, he's not a 24-year-old Travis Kelsey. He's getting older, so it's going to be interesting to see how they try to spread the ball around and who kind of shows up. I've said it's either going to be, it's going to be all or nothing with them because one of these guys, Hardman, Smith-Schuster, or Valdez-Scantling's got to kind of step in and take not all of Tyreek Hill's lost production, but a chunk of it for them to be successful. So that would be my rankings, purely looking at it from like on paper going into the season.
Just quickly before I throw it over to you, Coach, two things. Jack, please put your comments on what you think in the chat here. I would like to hear what you have to say. I saw your comment. The short answer is yes, I do want to hear what you have to say, just as I'd like to hear what all of the rest of the commenters and folks here joining us live and after the fact have to say as well. And just on a side note, Edward, I'm answering the question at hand. The question was not who I think is the best team in the division, nor is it who I think is going to win the division, because that's not always one and the same. The question was the offensive weapons that are on the teams, and that is how I answered. And that's why I ranked people where they were, which also means, just for the record, that as Alex very aptly pointed out, you remove the quarterback from that equation when you're giving that assessment, even though all of us know that the quarterback matters almost equally as much as those skill positions when you are actually getting the true on the field results.
Yeah.
So that
leads to production, but
yeah, I just think it's important that the qualifiers are added when these answers are given, because I think so many times you see these rankings and you see like the pictures and you're like, that's crap. But then when you actually go back and read like the actual segment, you're like, okay, yeah, I kind of agree with most of that. So, Coach, over to you. I like to hear what you have to say on this because your team ranked pretty high amongst pretty much everyone that's gone so far.
True. I was actually surprised that you guys both put him at 1. I thought somebody was going to give him a slight. But
I
do.
Being a Chiefs fan, I try to be a realist.
I understand. So do I. I've been a Chargers fan, but to Rich's point though, context matters. Let's put that out there as well. Context matters when you talk about arguments and when you talk about rankings. So in the context of what we're talking about, and it's so funny with this division too, is you could take the quarterbacks out of this ranking and still be talking about elite talent across the board. Each team has elite talent, from a perspective. The Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Chargers all have elite Pro Bowl talent across the board, which is a great thing. Which again, I said is bar none the best division of football this year. I don't think it's even close. So with that being said, I'm not going to argue with you guys and take away from the idea the Chargers are number 1 because I do feel that way. It's close. In my opinion, I think from a production perspective, it's close. It's not a walk off, since it's like we're like not up here and you guys are down there. Because it's a lot to like about the talent from a weapons perspective in every team. And I'll go one by one. Like I told you, Rich, last week, I love the young core receivers that the Broncos have. It is young and it's a deep core. Like they probably have the deepest and most productive core of talent, and I guess you say a hodgepodge of positions. You have route runners, you have deep ball guys.
I agree. Yep.
Great mix. And your tight end depth is really good. The Raiders have probably arguably the top receiver in the league. Top. When it comes to matchup nightmares, Darren Waller is the matchup nightmare for anybody. You can give Travis Kelce all the credit in the world, but when it comes to one-on-one matchups, Darren Waller's a nightmare because again, he was a receiver in college, and a good one. He just had he just too tall. He just too freaking tall. Had to put a little bit of weight on. Too freaking tall to be a receiver in the league. You just too tall. So he put on about 15 pounds of muscle, and all of a sudden he's an elite tight end.
He's a Georgia Tech guy. That's all they do is just get those Megatrons.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. So, and then to not leave the Chiefs out, they brought in Sky Moore on top and Justin Ross, in the draft in the UDFA. So if those guys hit when they have high rankings coming out of college, you might be looking at them supplanting Mecole Hardman, who hasn't really hit yet. Or Juju Smith-Schuster if he doesn't be productive, and who knows, Valdez-Scantling could be a underrated deep ball guy because he does run a 4.3 40. Let's be honest. He's a tall guy, but he still runs a 4.3 40. So, much like
the second fastest last year outside of Tyreek.
Right. So again, if you blink, he can run past you. So
I run a 4.3 as well.
In your
4
car,
weeks.
In your
4
car.
weeks, 3 days.
He's like Michael Scott in the office running by the speedometer. 63.
4
4 weeks, 3 days, baby.
Get down to the 40 yards.
And that needs to be someone out there needs to convert that into a meme.
Yes.
And Captain needs to use that next combine.
Yes. I run a 4.3
I ran a 4.3. And then in brackets, like 4 weeks, 3 days. That is beautiful.
I like that. So to close the loop on it, like I said, I to give credit where credit is due. To close the loop on it, I would say there's the Chargers on 1, but it's close. I will honestly say that just from a matchup perspective, and I did look at Renfro's stats last year, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought he was shy of 1,000 yards, but he was over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he was.
So I credit to him to that. So I would slightly give the Raiders 2. Now it gets dicey for me from a weapons perspective because it's an unproven commodity from a quarterback perspective from Denver and a receiver perspective from KC. So I'm kind of torn between the two. And we leave the quarterbacks out of it. I'll have to give Denver slightly the edge from a weaponry perspective because you got 2 beast running backs, you got 3 good tight ends, you got I would say 4 good receivers. So I would give Denver the 3, and I would give KC the 4. But it's a close race. It's a close race.
And one of the major reasons why I also gave Denver 2 is because we had 2 running backs that were
Yeah.
darn near 1,000 yards apiece.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't think that as many people here realize that are from other teams. Like, it is ridiculous. You literally had like a 1A and 1B that were just.
I'm pretty sure they both had 1,000 yards.
I think they did.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. You sure?
Are you talking all purpose? Are you talking?
No, they didn't. They both did. They both were 9.
They're like 9 and change.
They both had the same exact carries.
Yeah. You might as well say they had
4.4 with 900 yards. That's
that's the thing.
Okay,
stupid.
you had 2 running backs in Denver that averaged 4.4 or 4.5 yards a carry. They were at over 900 yards apiece each, and they had almost identical carries. The fact that you have 2 guys that can produce those type of stats on one team is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Wait,
part of the
would you
reason
say
why
it's
I gave Denver
ridiculous?
the nod that we did.
Huh?
You might even say it's redonkulous, right?
I agree. I agree.
But I will say, I don't know if they'll have the same, it'll be interesting to see if it changes getting Russell Wilson and kind of where they would normally just run the ball, do, quick slants or something to get yards and see how that would kind of impact the ability for both of them. I mean, one of them is going to produce, and I think it's going to be Williams. But it'll be interesting to see, if that would impact Melvin Gordon, getting the same amount of touches he got or the same sort of production as last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but we're looking at overall weapons, excluding the quarterback, and simply looking at the actual skilled position guys on their own.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the piece to really assess, which is, you have a guy in Adams who is an absolute polished route runner, who can get himself open and is proven to catch those contested balls. You have a guy in Renfro who is top 2 or 3 slot guy in the NFL at that particular position, proven over multiple years to be at that caliber, probably only to be outdone by Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
right?
Nobody's going to argue that.
No. And that's what I'm saying, right? But that's what I'm saying is that
he's a Triple Crown winner.
You have to look at the components and group them together. Yeah. You have 2 almost 1,000-yard running backs in Denver, one of which is a rookie last year who ran for well over 900 yards, which again, I think needs to sink in for everyone kind of looking at it and saying, wait a minute, he was a rookie and did that. No, I will also concede that the running back position is probably the most transferable position to the NFL. Out of all the positions on the field, I think the running back position is that one that can just kind of cut, copy, paste, repeat. But not to get that kind of production, more often than not, you have to be a first-round pick and in that top echelon of running backs, like your Ezekiel Elliott's, like your Derrick Henrys and guys like that, where you end up with production like that. And we had our guy picked in the top of the first round who was in that top tier running backs. I mean, that says something, and I think that it all has to be factored in when you're actually assessing the skill positions on their own. And guys, before we close out the show, I did want to bring up a few things.
Don't forget about Cap. Cap didn't give his rankings.
Oh no, he's going to in just 1 sec.
Oh, okay.
I want everyone to prepare for some NFL news that's going to come after Captain here. I do want to discuss DT and his autopsy and some of the information that came from that, which I think is some important information. Yeah. Again, for our non-Broncos fans, they may not have heard it before, but I think that's something that we need to discuss. And then we also have the Baker Mayfield news that we kind of alluded to earlier that came out kind of near the back end of today, which I'd like to go over as well. Captain, over to you.
All right, and I thank you there as well. And I appreciate getting a chance to do this. And I got the way you've teed me up is I sound like a homer. No matter what I say, I'm going to sound like a homer. But yep. I agree with you that the Chargers have the most people coming back as a group that makes their offense overall a good factor. Okay. And they do. They have like pretty much everybody coming back offensively. But I still think when we go 1-1A, I'm going to give it to the Raiders only because we've gone from having no real viable number one receiver since the demise of Henry Ruggs, who was ascending to be that guy, and the tragedy that followed. But now we have somebody that is, as we have come to know, a top 1, 2, or at worst, the third best receiver overall in the NFL. And now he's with us. So he has taken that position that Henry Ruggs unfortunately didn't get a chance to fulfill. So if you look at what the Chargers have had, I agree that they have all those little wickets there, but the Raiders have improved just from that. And in deference to what that Alex guy says, okay,
that Alex guy,
Marcus Robinson, he might not even make the team, because I still think that Keelan Cole is going to have more of an influence as that extra receiver than Marcus Robinson does. Okay, and again, I might be wrong with that, but I think that when you look at Cole and Robinson, I think you get more bang for the buck with Keelan Cole. And I think he just afforded that opportunity. Marcus is, and again, because I'm not biased, Marcus Robinson is a Gator, and I love my Gators, obviously. Orange and blue on Saturday, just not on Sunday, right? So we go with that, but I think Keelan Cole is going to be that extra receiver. So if you take Waller and Moreau with Adams and Renfro and Keelan Cole, if you throw in Marcus Robinson, okay, and you have a backfield, and this is where I came after, was going to come after you guys last week. It's not that the Raiders don't like Josh Jacobs, and it's not the main reason why they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, is that they were going with the mindset which came in from those guys that were back east, okay? And they're gonna say prove it or go. Even Carr's contract is a prove it deal for this year. They can get rid of him after a year. Might not happen.
Yeah.
But they can get rid of Carr after this year. And Jacobs, who is their best running back and played well in Alabama in an RBC, is going to be that much better playing in an RBC this year with Kenyon Drake, providing he comes back from his injury, and with Zamir White, although I don't think he's going to be as much of a factor, because I think that the kids that they got that are former Cheatriots who know the system are going to get more playing time at the beginning of the year to the middle of the year than Zamir White did. And Zamir White is awesome because he is the prototypical back that McDaniels wants. So if you go tight ends with the only thing that we don't know is who's TE3. I don't know. It's not Derek Carrier anymore because he retired. And that's unfortunate because he was a great tight end for what we wanted him. But you got Waller and Moreau and TE3 TBD. Say that fast 3 times.
Jacob
with
Hollister.
The receivers that we've had and the running backs that we've had.
Patriots game.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Jacob Hollister is your TE3. Former Seattle Seahawks.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It could. There's another gentleman that was showing flashes in OTAs, but again, OTAs is just people working out in shorts. So we'll see. But it could be Hollister, who has a lot of great attributes. That's the kid that's from the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or no, that was Holland. Anyway, but there's a lot to be said with the Raiders and the Chargers being the best. And I have to say that there was a bit of a drop off I'm not saying that the Chiefs are dead. Just like Ed Winchell comes back and reminds us, I can't believe you guys are throwing dirt on the Chiefs when they've been to 4 AFC Championship games the last 4 years, and they've won the AFC West the last how many times, Alex? I'm teeing you up,
7.
dude. 7. Thank you. They've won the AFC West 7 times in a row. We're not throwing dirt on them per se, but I think that there comes a time, even when the Raiders were the best team in the AFC West for years, and we actually, I don't know, Alex probably wasn't alive for that.
Oh, I was alive.
Jesus.
You weren't. You weren't alive. Coach might have taken a breath, but it was in the 70s. Late 60s and the 70s when the Raiders won the AFC West at least 6 times in a row. They went to the AFC Championship game a lot of times in a row. I don't remember exactly thing, but they lost. They always lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion, and that's because the AFC was that good with Shula's Dolphins and Noel's Steelers. I'm just saying. So if you go from there, I think that there's going to be a little bit of a lapse with Kansas City. It's got to come sometime, and we've been looking for it for a while. I think it's going to happen. So I'm going to say Raiders and Garglers, but I'm going to be that homer a little bit up. I'm going to give it to the Raiders as the best offensive playmakers of all of the guys. Kansas City is going to be dropping now because I think Hill, while he's not the end all be all, but that is such an important part of your offense that it's gonna take a while to mesh out. And I love what Denver. Well, I don't love, but Denver fans love what Denver has in their offense up and coming. So that's why I'm going to give them a 3 with the or 1 and 1A, and then 3 because you've got to go 1 1A. Then 3 is Denver with 3A. Kansas City. I'm not saying that your team sucks, Alex. Although
I'm laughing at this comment. I'm not. I toned you out a while ago.
Yeah, just like I said, the one time that I don't listen to you is when you do a movie reference that I could use for something. So yeah, it's tit for tat.
That was
touche. Touche. Yeah,
Wish
that's a French word
you
don't know. It's touche.
I think it's pronounced touche.
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 No. Yeah, that's
I'm with 3 Americans here. They can't even pronounce the French language. You guys do all realize that New Orleans is a thing, right?
Nolans?
They speak French.
You mean Nolans?
Yeah, I mean Nolans. Yeah, like
Nolans.
Nolans.
No, Nolans. And yeah, that is
hold on. I have to interject real quick.
Yes, sir.
A point of contention. We get enough American TV here that I just really do need to set the record straight on one word because it drives me bananas. And that is, it's foyer, not foyer.
Yeah, it's foyer.
I don't even say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it is not foyer.
I don't either.
I don't have one of those.
I don't either, do I? So I don't care.
Oh,
I
jeez.
don't have a nice house to invite people into one of those.
Okay.
Like feng shui. Like I don't say feng shui either. So I that's one of those words I can go without pronouncing. I'm good.
And thank you, Jack.
I know.
I appreciate that. I wanted to make sure it got some airplay, but and Jack did give his rankings. I think Jack's were close to what I had. For the reasons that I had.
Yeah. We posted Jack's rankings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were up there for a while.
Oh, okay. Apologies. I'm going to play old man, CRS disease. I didn't see it. So I was whipping out my saber.
We've kind of gone over the bonus topic. Jack, I love the question and I love the request because I really think that kind of ties quite a bit of what we've been speaking about over the last couple of shows together. So thank you for that.
Maybe we should hire Jack to be our topic coordinator because he has some good topics.
He's throw some awesome ones out there.
He does.
Jack, comment section down below. Go ahead and fire off a few more. We are always open to them, and anyone else for that matter. Going over some NFL news. Demaryius Thomas. I mean, you can't have gone through the NFL without knowing who that is. one of the more iconic plays in the playoffs with the walk-off touchdown there from Tim Tebow. That's right.
The push pass.
Sure, whatever. So when you look at what just came out of his autopsy, I do want to give kudos to the family for having the wherewithal to agree to donate his brain to research. I really think that getting more information on this type of just absolutely crippling, I don't know if you necessarily call it a disease, but it is certainly trauma or brain trauma. And so getting as much or more information, I think, will be absolutely critical and important. Mm-hmm. My 2 cents overall on it is there was this kind of fog sense within Broncos country that DT had some challenges going on, especially where he had that out of character car crash that occurred in Houston. That's just not him. It's just not who he was. He was just almost like a model citizen, and you can't understate the type of guy that he was and what he did for the community here in Denver. He was the guy that would intentionally stick behind and wait for the press to leave when he was at children's events to ensure that the kids got extra time where they didn't have to be under the scrutiny of the camera just because he knew it meant a lot to them. That's the type of guy that he was. And I think that a guy like that within any organization, Denver was fortunate enough to have him as a staple within ours for many years. I think is just speaks volumes to who he was and what he contributed to the Denver community. However, he did have stage 2 CTE, which is obviously quite severe, leads to mood swings, memory loss, a whole whack of just really, really nasty things, and just a really kind of bad overall look. My biggest hope out of all of this is that we can finally kind of have a spotlight put on CTE and its impact on contact sports. And I'd like to see more focus put on early diagnosis and means of addressing it with guys that are in the early stages of it, not at the back end of their career.
Yeah.
And because
I think it's a hard thing like you said, you can't really find out if someone has it until they're dead and you do an autopsy and look at their brain.
No, but that's my point, right? That's my point.
But I mean, it's been a prevalent topic for, close to 10 years now. And the league obviously has taken serious steps to deal with it. But I think it's still alarming that from a medical standpoint, there's not a more feasible way to look at, examine someone and determine that and provide treatment for it until it's almost too late.
So DZ here makes a really interesting comment, and that's right. I'm Canadian. It's Zed, not Z.
Zed's dead, baby.
So I would love to see early detection or identifying what that early stage CTE or early onset of CTE looks like. You really don't get that until you start aggregating more and more data, start building out hypotheses in terms of what leads to one thing and what leads to another. And it really just takes honesty from the players as well. The players themselves need to start reporting more of wonky events, if you will, with themselves to better help feed just things in general to help out those players that are going to come after them. And as an example, you look at even the NHL, Jack, Captain. I know that you often have hockey talk and stuff on your channel a fair amount as well. And Coach, I know you have other sports that you stream live as well, although it seems to be primarily basketball, which is awesome. But when you're talking CTE, early onset, brain trauma, that kind of stuff, we really need to get all of these sports involved, whether it be hockey, basketball, soccer. You need to start getting all these various athletes to come forward when they're having these memory loss, these other challenges, so that we can start feeding the data models that we can start putting together and truly help the next generation to help identify perhaps even genetic markers that might make you more susceptible to CTE as opposed to others. But you can only do that when you have data. And right now we just simply don't have enough.
True. And I like what they're doing from the top, from the bottom level, I guess you can say, when it comes to boys club, all the way up until the pros now, where they're, in boys club football, they're not hitting at a certain age anymore. They're hitting less in practice. They're having kids walk around even with unpadded practices with protective gear on their heads.
They got those big things on their helmets.
Actually, I was at a football camp a few years ago when they were modeling it and they were demoing it with its infancy. So they're using it now. So
I had to model it when my last year at college. I thought it was so stupid.
right. But yeah, they're now even wearing them in the pros in OTA. So what they're doing with less context during the week. Because you look at the model, previously in previous years, where you would literally practice full pads every day except for Friday, leading up to a game on Saturday or Sunday. So you're hitting every day. They're taking that out of it, as those aspects out of it. Heavy contact practices, just tackling in general. So that's taking a lot of that out of it and things of that nature. So I want to say that I think they're taking a lot of steps that are going to help the next generation coming up to not have those early onset issues or have issues as a whole. But until medicine advances, at least from a living perspective, it's going to be kind of hard to ultimately truly determine that you have it until, like you said, until it's too late. So that's the unfortunate part. But by mitigating those risks, I think they're definitely taking a step forward in helping the new generation of players today.
Yeah, and they got all the extra measures with the concussion protocols and things like that.
Right.
I know from my own experience, it's pretty easy to have one and not say anything and keep playing. And sometimes there is pressures to keep playing, not to say anything. And I think that kind of narrative has been going more and more out the door, which is I think that's kind of the ground floor to help prevent this as much as you can. But at the same time, I think just given the overall nature of football and how it's played, it's almost an inevitable thing to have, especially if you make a living out of it and play for 20 plus years of a sport where you're constantly hitting and butting heads. It's just going to happen.
Right. I was on Captain, I think it was your show actually, where I made some comments just about hockey because I'm Canadian and therefore I'm qualified to talk about hockey because it's what we do here.
It's even worse.
It's just a fact, right?
But it's not the national sport of Canada, which really, if you guys do not know,
lacrosse.
It's curling.
No, lacrosse.
I said curling. Now we got to Google it because if I'm right,
the last I checked, lacrosse was the national sport.
Oh,
the last I checked, lacrosse was our national sport.
I'll take the Canadians.
GTS.
I'll check on that.
GTS.
I'm gonna GTS that.
GTS that. GTS that. I don't think I'm wrong. But and the fact that it's not hockey is almost criminal.
Yeah. Honestly, I think CTE is probably even more prevalent in hockey. To get back to the topic,
but when you look at what we have in other medical areas where you have certain medical precursors to identify things like cancers, you have certain precursors to identify other elements. Right now, what the major problem that we have with CTE, in my opinion, is you have two huge problems. One is, how is it that you can have a hockey player like Eric Lindros and another player like Sidney Crosby who just get concussions when people look at them the wrong way? And then you have other guys that seemingly can get kicked in the head and look over and say, what am I supposed to have a problem right now? And I will admit that it took a good number of hits to my head to finally get my first concussion. So I consider myself lucky in that regard, where, I mean, I was kicked in the head more times than I could count. And I saw other dudes over on the sideline, and I knew something was seriously wrong. They could not walk a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from the rugby world, getting kicked in the head is a Tuesday.
Pretty
Okay?
much.
Like literally, it is a Tuesday. It is normal, right? And so, I mean, I was kicked in the head. I lost count the number of times I was kicked in the head. Like just, and I don't mean just like a little tap. I mean a dude coming up and straight up like soccer kicking me in the head. And I was fortunate enough to not have major concussions when I was playing. My major concussions when I was doing stunt work and I fell on my neck.
Yeah,
And that was my first major concussion, which, you know, when you fall 2 stories and land on your neck, you kind of expect something bad to happen.
Fair.
And fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But when I had that happen to me, I knew something was wrong. I could see the black splotches. I could see, you know, getting your bell rung and that kind of stuff. And I reported it to the local hospital here to say, oh, I had a concussion. I know I had a concussion. It was not pleasant. And so why is it that it took that long for someone like me to get a concussion when I know that my teammate next to me got absolutely obliterated? Like, it makes no sense. My genetics are clearly different, but what separated me from my teammate, this is information that, in my opinion, is critical. Now, we also have to take a half step back. Could that be used against guys in the combine? For example, if it's found out that my Irish heritage, for example, puts me at a lesser risk of concussions, could genetic testing, for example, then turn into Irish heritage has a 60% reduction in CTE and concussions and all that kind of stuff? Could that then
I've
be
had
used?
something bad to eat, you know.
Tacos. So could that have to do with like a genetic thing, and could that be used against guys? I think that's something we need to be cautious about, because you don't want people's opportunities to be taken away from them.
Yeah.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
I was on the screen. I don't know when, but as an older person, I do remember that curling was, maybe it was like how baseball used to be the national pastime of the United States. Baseball was the sport.
That was a good one.
Now,
Canadian.
the national sport is drinking Crown Royal, but in the summer, it's lacrosse.
It's
In the
Pabst
winter,
Blue.
it's hockey. But I do recall, I really do recall that curling was the sport of Canada. Okay. And yes, Dr. James Naismith, I even know who the gentleman's name is.
Yep.
Dr. James Naismith, the Canadian who
Springfield,
brings
Massachusetts.
basketball. Okay. But curling was historically the sport of Canada over hockey. And I'm trying, in fact, that there is legislation to officially make curling like the number 3 sport of Canada. I know this. I can't get the certification, but I do know it. But officially, it's lacrosse in the summer, hockey in the winter. But I know it was curling.
That must have been in the 70s too.
Yeah, it was generations past. Curling was the national sport of Canada.
Which is remarkable, because back then the NHL was even more Canadian than it is now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like there's like 90% Canadian in the NHL. But Moving on to other NFL news, I appreciate everyone going down the CTE and Demaryius Thomas journey here with us here. I mean, it was an absolute tragedy what happened to him. For those of you who don't know the details, I really think it's a good read for you to find out what happened to him, how he passed. I think it really does show some of the more important sides of football that we all need to kind of look into as we're enjoying what is at least our favorite sport, I believe. And moving on to one last piece of NFL news, and it got released just, a few hours before we went live. Baker Mayfield has been officially traded, barring a physical, to the Carolina Panthers for a conditional 5th round pick.
How much money are the Browns eating?
Alex, go ahead and lead us off with this.
Yeah. Do you know how much money are the Browns eating of that? I didn't see that.
I have not heard. Well, that's the interesting thing. I haven't seen the fact that they're eating any of it.
No, they are.
No. They're eating something. I heard this as well.
10 of the 18 that the Panthers are taking 8 of the 10. 8 of the 18.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's fair. Honestly, though, I kind of had a discussion with some buddies earlier. I'm kind of a Baker Mayfield fan, so I think good for him to get out of there. And I kind of don't like a little bit. I don't like how that's not the first time I've heard that. But, I kind of didn't really, from an outsider looking in, I didn't like how the Browns kind of just pushed him aside, from last year when he had such a productive rookie year and he was like the first QB out of the last 52 that franchise has had in 7 years to get them to the playoffs and actually not have a top 10 pick for the first time in, my lifetime. And then it was just so quick for them to say he's terrible and to get him out. And then it kind of blew up in their face. So I'm like, good for Baker Mayfield to get out of there. I think he's better than any QB that the Panthers have, maybe outside of Corral, just because he's a rookie coming in. I think he's better.
That's
than
potential, though, right?
Yeah.
That's a potential. That's not even necessarily that's the we hope he could be.
Yeah, but he's definitely. I think, I know that they got him and said they want to have a competition, but I think he's clearly going to be the starting guy unless Corral just blows everyone out of the water going into the preseason.
So what happens to Darnold then?
I bet they release him. I bet they just cut it. I mean, I don't know.
That's the thing. He has $18 million of guaranteed money as well. That's 5-year option. So
maybe they just keep him. I mean, they're only taking 8 for.
I can see him trading him.
I don't know where.
I can see him trading him.
Yeah, they bet they similar situation to how they got Mayfield. Eat some of his money, take a 4th or a 5th, and call it good. But I think that Mayfield, if healthy, is better than Darnold and has potential to still be good. And I think it would be kind of poetic justice in a sense if he is, and they are 10-7 or something and make the playoffs, and the Browns are dog water.
I grabbed it as well. Were you grabbing it too there? Did we both grab it at the same time?
Darnold sue the ruin his career.
Yeah, I grabbed it too, man.
Well, yeah, that's
great minds thinking alike, Richie.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because again, like I said, Baker is getting a second chance at life here with the Panthers, but like I said, I'm like poor Sam Darnold. He really never got a shot. I mean, he got kind of got tossed around, so we really don't know if he's really a legit quarterback or not. We just really don't know. But
he just turns the ball over. I mean, that's always been a thing with him. He's not smart.
He's definitely reckless. Yes,
but at the same time, Baker hasn't been smart with it either. But anytime you get a dude that breaks Peyton Manning's rookie passing record, for touchdowns and kind of changes the culture of an overall ass franchise, I mean, they got to, be somewhat decent.
Who did that?
Mayfield did.
Oh, okay.
He broke Manning's touchdown record in the rookie season. Now Manning also had the interception record as well.
Yeah,
I know it was a touchdown. I thought it was the interception record he broke.
No, he had both.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Manning did. I think Mayfield I know he threw like 29 touchdowns, but I mean, I think just given the overall history of quarterback play in Cleveland, I mean, the guy was leaps and bounds better than anything they've had in long time past looking at history, and then they just kind of wanted to get him out the door as quick as possible.
Now, would it be poetic justice if he beats them week 1? You know the Browns, the Panthers play week 1, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're not going to have Deshaun Watson.
No, most likely not. Yeah.
Yeah. May I interject, though? You guys that are and hear me out before you blow me out of the water. You guys that are already throwing dirt on Sam Darnold, okay? I present for thought processing Jim Plunkett. It wasn't until Jim Plunkett went to his third team with the third system in an offense that was suited for him that he thrived. So Sam Darnold was ruined, in my estimation, in New York Jets, a la Jim Plunkett was ruined with the New England Patriots, and they were the Patriots back then. Plunkett goes over to the Niners and is a shell of his former self, can't even really take the position and doesn't do anything, and is unceremoniously shipped off across the bay to the Oakland Raiders and becomes a star for the Raiders when Dante Pastorini, and that is his name, by the way, Dante Pastorini, breaks his arm and leads the Raiders to not one but 2 Super Bowls. So there you go. You get the right situation with the right people. That there's no saying that maybe Darnold hits with somebody. So don't just say that he's.
I'm not writing it off at all. I'm not writing it at all. But he needs to be. It's one of the things about the quarterback position, especially in this league now. You have to have the right situation for you.
Yes.
Like you can't play in any situation. You can't play in any system. You have to have the right situation and the right things around you to make you thrive.
Hey, Coach, do you want to hear something? Do you want to think of the good situation for him now is?
What's that?
The Browns.
Darnold?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why I think it's the Browns is the Browns have an extremely strong running game, and they also have a very good offensive line. So to all of those commenters, and let's just say I agree. The reason why the Jets literally ruined Darnold was because they had an absolute trash offensive line.
They were everywhere.
Like they were trash.
Everywhere. They were
so
bad.
Trash.
Yeah.
And so the kicker here is, how are you going to help a quarterback who's seeing ghosts and literally thinks that everyone's coming to kill him? Well, you put him behind an offensive line that can give him 3 or 3.5 seconds to throw the ball.
Well, what makes me raise the eyebrow to that though is why they just swapped quarterbacks then if they're going to use Donald, in place of Watson's suspension. Why not just swap players?
Because I bet that Mayfield, they were willing to trade for Mayfield and they weren't willing to give anyone up. I bet you Carolina wanted to keep him, and I bet you Carolina is looking at this as a opportunity to hold on to Darnold and trade him after they allow Mayfield to clear waivers to get picks. I mean, and I could absolutely see the Browns just they're in so much trouble. Like I don't even know where. You don't even know where to start because there's it's almost a guarantee at this point that Watson's facing at least a year suspension. I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's a conflicting reports on that. Some people are saying half a year. Some people are saying a year.
Right, but the point is that are you willing to tank the season just to get that one quarterback, or are you going to then overpay to bring in someone that you think that can at least bridge the gap? And if you believe you have a competitive team, which frankly the Browns showed that they are pretty competitive as a team, you're throwing away some top tier talent. And if you're going to go that route, you may as well sell the farm and start going draft pick, by trading away guys like Nick Chubb and other people like that you can get legit value for.
Well, the other thing is that you got to remember as well, and for all those that are saying that it would be just desserts for the Browns to have Watson gone the entire year, remember this, okay? And I can't remember where I read it. If Watson is gone for the year, okay, the Browns will have that money that they can push forward to next year. Can you imagine having that $30 million or so in next year's cap? They can go out and play LeBron James and just pick everybody.
For what?
Because they're not paying that money this year.
But they never had to pay that money this year.
Yeah, his salary this year was like
his salary this year is $1 million.
Yeah.
So the problem is that the Browns, the Browns, when they put together Watson's contract, almost shot themselves in the foot. They structured his contract in such a way that they basically said, we believe you're going to be suspended for a year. Do you know what they did? They pulled a Deflategate Tom Brady with the Patriots. And they basically said, we're going to convert your salary to reduce it to such a small amount that it's going to be inconsequential to you. And we are going to go ahead and defer the remaining salary to year 2.
Yeah.
So
they basically, they brought him on.
They basically said, Watson, you lose $1 million of your guaranteed deal. Is that okay with you? And he said, yes, sir.
And $229 million versus $230 million. I mean, you would argue that?
No, exactly. No, you're going to say yes, please sign me up, right? And
okay, again,
and so
the person that I was getting this information from was wrong.
Bad sourcing.
I wasn't wrong.
Was it
what I read was wrong?
Yeah, no, the problem is the signing bonus is up front, and then the team is going to give that up anyways, right?
Yep.
And the thing that the player would then lose is the current in-year salary if they get suspended or have issues or whatever the case may be. And because Watson's in-year salary is only $1 million, he then basically loses $1 million of like a 200 and some odd $1 million guaranteed contract, which is a drop, literally a rounding error in the scheme of things for him.
Cam Newton's still out there. They can go sign him for a year.
Well,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I was hearing Jim Garoppolo as a bridge. That's what I was hearing.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's still got to get moved.
But again, the point ultimately though is that if the Browns think that they are still in fact a truly competitive team, which I actually believe they are.
Yeah, on paper, yeah.
I believe they are. Truly, I believe they are. Then they have every incentive in the world to go out and bring someone in like a Sam Darnold, like any one of these other, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, someone who they believe can absolutely take over that 1 year and keep them competitive.
Yeah. But I think they really just need a game manager, you know?
Yes.
Because they got Chubb.
Yes. Yeah, with that running game, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Chubb and Hunt, I mean, they just need someone who wouldn't turn the ball over a lot and could just keep drives alive and just rely on the run game.
So, guys, this is how I want to close out the pod today. I think this is a perfect ending to cap out the NFL segment here that we've gone on. Tommy, thank you for asking the question. I appreciate you joining us live and everyone else for joining us live today. Pod, do you think the NFL will go harder at Watson because of Cleveland's subversion? And if I can attempt to add a little bit onto that, Tommy, what you're effectively getting at is what my response was to Captain Jack's comment there, which was the Cleveland Browns intentionally structured his contract in such a way that they basically expected him to be suspended for the 2022 season. And do we think collectively as a group that the NFL will in turn punish either A, the Browns, or B, Watson more because of that contract structure? Captain, you go first if you don't mind.
Well, I tell you, it per the question, do you think that they're going to go harder after Watson or Cleveland for subversion? The answer is, should they? Yes. Will they? No. And the reason why I say that is because there's that tier thing of people that can get away with everything. And I submit to you, let me see. Dallas ownership, New England ownership, and a certain other few members of the Vienna Boys Choir that have like get out of jail free cards care of Monopoly. Now, Jimmy Haslam isn't necessarily in that key club yet, but I don't think he's on the, we're going to go after this team because of various things. And I'm not going to say what everybody else is thinking. There are teams that get unduly juiced because of issues. And there are teams that I've given you as examples that seem to skate. So should they go after Cleveland? The answer is yes. Will they? Probably not. Probably not. And as far as going after Watson, I think that answer will be depending upon what happens with the court cases.
Yeah.
Well,
Coach, what about you?
I think I agree with Cap, but for a different reason. I think they should, but I don't think they will. And I think the owners want them to, but it's not up to the owners to decide the punishment for Watson. This, you have to realize that from a context perspective, this is the first time that they're going to be utilizing this new system where they have I guess you could say an isolated and independent arbiter in this case. So because everybody was harping on the fact that Goodell was a judge, jury, and executioner in previous suspensions, so they wanted to remedy that in the new CBA. So this being the first case that she's handling, I think that whatever she doles out as far as the suspension concerned, Goodell's not going to interfere, because in order for them to go above and beyond her, he has to basically appeal her and add more games to it. So if she says 8 games, he says, well, I think 8 is not harsh enough. I want to appeal that process and make it 17. Then he can do that and go through that process. But I don't think, because for good favor in the new system that they have, he's going to intervene. I think he's going to stay completely out of it, and whatever she decides is going to be the punishment that he gets. So whatever, if she decides a year, he gets a year. If she decides 8 games, he gets 8 games. Whatever she decides is ultimately going to be what he gets under this new system, because they're trying the new independent arbiter versus having Goodell decide.
So I want you to revisit that. Do you believe that the NFL will attempt to then influence the independent arbiter to go under what they want, and then have Goodell come in to say, I am the quote unquote white knight in the situation here, and saying that it's unacceptable to our female fans, so on and so forth, et cetera, and then come in and say a year and a half or 2 years or extend out to say a 6-month suspension to say a full year, to say the NFL sees this differently and this is a serious situation. And yes, there was intentional sarcasm there, because I do wonder if I want to say collusion is the right word, but do you think that the NFL will intentionally try to rig the game to make themselves appear? I know, Jack, I'm as shocked as you are to be making the comment. Do you think the NFL will rig the game?
Here's the big one, honey.
Look, a holier than thou, if you will.
Yeah, I really don't think Goodell gets involved at all. Just to want to simple fact. He can, but I don't think he will get involved. I think he's going to be stay completely independent. You think he will?
I think Watson is at minimum getting a year, maybe longer, and I think it's more so not because of going harder because of Cleveland. I think they'll go harder because there's that new lawsuit that Houston was tied into. So I think that they will retrospect give Watson more suspension to try to sweep getting one of their franchises out of a pending litigation, and somehow settling that out by saying, look, like we gave him, a year and a half, what's it going to take to get this to go away? Because that attorney, I did that to up the ante a little bit in terms of money for his clients, and adding in the new suit with the Texans kind of instigating a lot of this stuff. And so I think, and I was trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure that Goodell can come in, right? And if both sides don't agree with the arbiter's like final ruling, I think Goodell can make the final ruling.
Right, he still can, yeah.
And I kind of think that we're going to see that play out. But at the same time, I think an outside, non-biased third party assessing everything could very well give him more than a year or two. I know people. Someone commented he shouldn't get anything because no charges were filed, but that's just not the way society works now, and it doesn't matter because it's still conduct detrimental to the league and to the team, and that's kind of a very ambiguous term that they can just say, whatever applies to that, and whatever we deem as a punishment is the appropriate one. But I do think that at the end he's not coming out of it missing more than 1 year.
Okay. But we'll see. I don't think any punishment will make anybody happy. I don't care what he gets. Somebody's gonna be mad about it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, yeah.
But I honestly think that at the end of the day, Captain, I'd like to just kind of get your take on this as well. Do you think the NFL is ultimately trying to avoid another, dare I just kind of go all the way there and say a Ray Rice situation, where they have enough information out there that is, at least in the public eye? I mean, Ray Rice was a video, so it was pretty hard to even, dispute it, right?
No, you have hearsay with the Deshaun Watson case, but you have video with the Ray Rice case. That's two different things.
Yeah, and physical assault.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not saying I'm not even saying I'm putting the two on the same playing field, but at the same time, there's certainly a more sensitive optics in the current landscape that we're in today.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a fair comment to make. So moving ahead to now, do you think the NFL is saying we were really, the court of public opinion did not rule in our favor when it came to the Ray Rice situation, and we would like to avoid that particular scenario again? Do you believe that is something that Goodell and the NFL and the ownership as well are saying we can't have that happen again?
I think that it's a very complex situation, and yes, Sharif does remind us that he doesn't have that there were 0 criminal indictments, but that is a I can't remember what the right word is, an indication that the criminal justice system sucks, not just that there were,
Wow.
We already knew that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
The thing is that they have so much. It's very hard to say that when you have 24 ladies.
More than that. It's just 24 cases.
You got a lot. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's say the ones that we know, that there are 24 gals with a story that don't necessarily know each other, that didn't necessarily get together and say, hey, this is what the spin's going to be, with the views that are almost nearly identical. And then you throw in the fact, like Richie was alluding to, the issue with the Texans management having the pleasure house indications for their quarterback. Okay. You put all of this together and it stinks.
Yeah.
It really stinks.
I would argue that they enabled the situation, then they turned and flipped it on him and dropped dime on him after he said he wanted to trade. That's why I think it all happened. That's what I think. I think they were until he decided he wanted out. And then all of a sudden he just threw all the stuff to the media and say, hey, oh, by the way, he has a problem. Investigate him. since he
Well,
wasn't.
that attorney is like, wasn't he like neighbors or friends with
Yeah,
the
his
owner?
neighbors with the owner. Yeah.
I mean,
No. It is different than that. The attorney was the Texans owner's attorney.
okay.
Like, I like it is. This is part of the problem with the situation is if you actually dig into it, like, and I mean, like, truly dig into it.
Yeah.
There's a few elements in there that you're just saying that doesn't quite fully pass the smell test.
Yeah.
Ooh, dude, you better stop this broadcast. I won't be able to use it on Friday.
And it's interesting, right? How when you have an owner who used the same attorney, and then all of a sudden that player says, "I want out," and then bang right away, right?
Yeah.
So there's certainly some question marks there. Now,
Absolutely.
that does not take away.
The only lawyer that would take the cases.
Yes, no, but that also does not take away from the fact that there is clearly some validity to these particular accusations. You do not get 26, 24, 25, dare I just go as far as saying Tiger Woods level cases of people coming forward. At some point there is, there's just a strength in numbers to simply say that this is a trend, right?
Yeah.
And then the question then becomes, is this something that is that crosses over into the criminal realm? Well, the justice system has said no, but that does not mean that this is not something that is in the civil realm, whereby it kind of goes over to the what is effectively in the civil realm questionable behavior.
Yeah.
and
got a problem if nothing else. He got an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Like massages, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's like random women touching your body, your naked body. I don't get it.
Exactly. And this, so it sounds like the criminal evidence against him was certainly circumstantial at best, which I think is the appropriate way of putting it. And as a result, the NFL and the criminal justice system said, we just can't. Like, it is a he said, she said scenario. There is nothing more to be had, and therefore we cannot proceed with the criminal cases. That does not mean that this does not enter into the realm of civil. And from my understanding, there is approximately 4 cases of women that feel so strongly about that they're refusing to settle.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And I really think that the NFL will have to take that into consideration, because at least in Ray Rice's circumstances with the physical abuse towards his then fiance, she was very quick to say, I don't want charges. I don't want charges. Stop. That is not what is happening here. There is at least 3 to 4, maybe even more women that are saying, I want this to go to trial.
And to kind of expand on Robert's question of why no charges were filed is, I think I've said it before, but in a criminal sense, it's a totally different burden of proof.
Yes.
And
I was just typing that.
it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Alex, would you mind just explaining that from the I know the Canadian legal perspective, but this goes into the American side. Would you mind just digging?
So like in the criminal realm, when they're presenting to a grand jury, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, which means with no matter what all the evidence there, you can't say that these charges happen. And whereas in a civil sense, it's by a preponderance of the evidence, which just means more likely true than not. So Correct. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to play with evidence or have less evidence, so to speak, and meet the burden in a civil sense, where there's no criminal aspect to it, but there's money involved. Whereas in a criminal matter, you have to have clear-cut evidence. So like this Ray Rice situation or some of these other ones, there's clear video evidence of these situations happening. Whereas in this Watson scenario, you have, screenshots of messages of him scheduling a massage, and then you have these ladies saying what happened, and that's it. So there's really not a whole lot of corroborating our physical evidence there to say, yeah, this assault, or whatever it's being called happened.
Right.
So let's press charges. And that's why it didn't move forward in the criminal sense. But they very well can move forward.
And then there's no police reports that then would corroborate the allegations thereafter and that sort of thing. So I actually, that's, I think it's super, super important for all of our viewers and listeners after the fact to kind of understand the burden of proof that are required in the two different elements of the criminal justice system, or in just the justice system in general. There is the civil, which is, it has to be more reasonable or more likely than not, which I believe is the actual legal definition. Yeah. Like more likely true than not, which is kind of like the legalese of it all. And then in the criminal justice system, because there is kind of the bigger 800-pound gorilla that then ends up on your back as a result of the criminal justice system, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt or beyond a shadow of a doubt, depending on the verbiage that you leverage in the circumstance. And that is you're talking modest language differences, but when you're talking about in a court of law, it is huge in terms of difference in terms of burden of proof. And so that's also why the NFL introduced the personal conduct policy, because you had all sorts of allegations against players that were basically snorting drugs and doing all sorts of shady crap. And the NFL was like, we don't want to have that go unpunished. That's not the image that we want for our league. And that's actually why the NFL introduced the personal conduct policy, which is effectively the NFL's version of a civil trial. Right.
Also to Jack real quick. I mean, we're running out of time, but I think it's should I stop?
No, go ahead. Like I said, if you just saw my last comment, go ahead.
Oh, well, I can stop.
No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Richie trim this to an MP4 that comes down to 2, hopefully.
Yeah. So, anyways, Alex, what might actually be a super interesting thing is for maybe you and I to do a brief short just on like the legalese of certain circumstances here, because I actually think that there is a true value to our listeners to have that at their disposal. To understand the difference, because I think armed with that general information, I think is a big deal for the listeners in the show. And just in essence of time, my kids are ringing it now in the background. It's certainly bedtime here on the Eastern Standard Time Zone. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining the Wild Wild West podcast this evening. We had a blast. A lot of you stuck around for the entirety of this podcast, and I thank you very much for that. If you'd like to catch us out, you can check us all on social media. All of our YouTube, social media, all those links are down below in the description. If you have show topics and other elements that you'd like us to discuss, or if you just want to razz us on social media, I always enjoy the banter. You can catch us on Twitter and all other major social media platforms. And ladies and gentlemen, next Wednesday, we have yet another great show for you. And until next week, the West Side is the best side. See you next week.
And I'm still going to do this.